Oh, hey there. You like true crime stories, right? Yeah, I know, who doesn't? But I gotta admit, after a while, all those stories of murder and heartache, well, they tend to go straight to my hips. So that's why I, Leroy Luna, have created a podcast called Excuse Me, That's Illegal, where we'll take a hardcore look at some softcore crimes. No TED Talks on Bundy here. The letters BTK won't be coming from these lips. Unless he had a brother that used to steal library books. Suppose I'd be willing to go balls deep into that one if that were the case. Anyways, you'll hear stories such as the Mad Pooper, a female jogger who wreaked havoc in a Colorado Springs neighborhood, using one family's front yard as her own personal dumping grounds. If this kind of content sounds like it's up your alley, Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available right now on all your favorite podcatchers. So come join me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reverie True Crime. Today, we are going to be discussing incels. For the last episode, I talked about Elliot Rodger, who was an incel, and I went down a deep rabbit hole about incels and what is called incel culture. So today, I have a special guest with me. Will you want to introduce yourself?
Why, sure. My name is JT, and I am from the Brew Crime podcast, as well as Active Shooter podcast and the Crime Trials podcast.
and there's more.
And I got 2 kids, and I got my car broke down and my dog died.
So
that didn't happen.
y'all will know JT from the Brewery Report. We don't have Mike. Mike was busy. He's always got fun weekends, so
He's off being Canadian. It's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Which is a totally fine thing to be, by the way. In fact,
We're
I would love
jealous.
to be Canadian. I am very jealous on a regular basis. He sends pictures, and I
know.
love to hate him, or hate to love him. A little bit of both.
So I'm going to start off with the very basics about incels. And first, that would be kind of defining what that is. And by Merriam-Webster's definition, a person, usually a man, who regards himself or herself as being an involuntary celibate, okay? And typically, they express extreme resentment and hostility towards those who are sexually active, and even their own gender. But the thing is, this says usually a man. And we're going to learn, like, through some of the screenshots that I have, that incels don't believe in quote unquote femcells. They don't think they exist. Their thing is, if you're a woman, you have a vagina, so you get whatever you want. And that does, it doesn't matter what you look like or anything. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
And it's really funny. It's not funny, but what's interesting is that they're the ones who are like putting the entire, sex of women on a pedestal. And it's their fault that they think that, I'm just gonna say y'all, are like that, right? And it's they are their own worst enemies in so many ways.
Yes.
Also, I'm super saddened by the fact that Merriam-Webster has determined that they needed to define this. Truly, that says a lot. Now, there are some words that have been added over the past few years that are just kind of, but this is truly become. I mean, Merriam-Webster picks words that become part of the zeitgeist or the culture. And I don't like the fact that this has been chosen, but here we are, and I'll let you keep going.
It's okay. So the word incel was actually created by a woman a very, very long time ago, but that word was kind of taken from her, and now they say female incels can't even exist, but a female created the word, which is just mind-blowing to me. But
a white guy's gonna white guy.
But the word incel and everything about it basically became really explosive on Reddit. and thousands of users, mostly young men, would talk about their lack of sex and lack of being affectionate with women and dating and all of that stuff. So they would kind of vent about their lack of sexual activity. But
Go to a bar like everybody else.
But in recent years, many of these men have defined themselves as so called incels, and they're kind of like an online subculture of men who not only vent, this is way past venting, it is expressing rage and hatred towards women because they say that they deny them sex and they will fantasize about violence. And as we'll see later in a lot of screenshots that I've collected from these incel forums, they celebrate mass shooters, and Elliot Rodger is one that comes up a lot. And it's pretty scary. I mean, honestly, it's scary. Even though I want to be like, I'm not scared of anything.
Yeah, no, it's extremely scary because it's all, I mean, the internet's not private, but it's all internal and online, and unless you're looking for it, you'd never know that somebody's going to go that route.
Yeah.
Also, I like the fact that their hobbies literally determines the fact that women would be like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And Rage Against the Machine's original name was not Rage Against the Vagina, so they need to chill out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
continue. Keep going.
No. So I found where I put this in my notes that the term incel was coined in 1993 by a young Canadian woman, and it was as a label for her own single status and as part of an effort to find and connect with similarly lonely people. Men kind of took that away. The few women that do try to venture off into these forums and online spaces, they get brutally harassed and jumped on, cyberbullied, whatever, you want to call it. And it's just I can't believe that somebody can actually think that women cannot have these same, issues of not being able to be in relationships, or it can't get laid or something. There are
Well,
women who struggle with that too.
what's really funny is that they just assume that if they're not, everybody else is. The assumption, which makes an ass out of them and them, is quite asinine. And I love that word. And truly, I might say it 10 times this episode, because
Go
really,
for
this
it.
entire thought, I mean, come at me, bro, but this is all asinine. It really
Yeah.
is. It is based off of pride and ego.
Talking about on these online forums, talking about basically killing women and how they want to go quote unquote ER, which stands for Elliot Rodger. So anytime they spell a word like it's over, or anything that ends in ER or has an ER in it, they will capitalize it, which is code for
Ugh.
I want to kill people, basically.
Let's let's retake that ER, and when we say go ER, it means you go George Clooney.
Oh,
That's all I'm
not deep
saying.
cut. Deep
It's a deep
cut.
cut, but I like it. I'm gonna reclaim it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Would have
All
never
right.
thought about that.
Brain's a weird place.
um, so incels have recently become a more well-known group because of people like Elliot Rodger, and a Canadian incel who I just read up a little about, but I don't know the whole story. But in 2018, he committed a mass shooting in Canada, and I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but it's Alec Manassian. And I know that I think he was in a van and he ended up running over a lot of people, and so they make jokes about that. Gosh, I was on there yesterday being nosy to see if I could collect some more screenshots, for today, and they were celebrating Sandy Hook, saying that
Oh my God.
those kids deserved it because they would have grown up to be what we're going to learn are Chads and Stacys.
For anybody who questions your dedication to this show, Y'all, like, I wouldn't be caught dead with my mentality, my mental status on those
Yeah.
pages, because I don't feel like losing any more faith in humanity than I already do.
Yeah.
I mean, good
I
on you for the
mean,
research, but ugh.
it's tough. I mean, and you can't help but want to go back and see what they're saying because I have a curious personality. And because Elliot Rodger, he stated in his videos and he was on online forums like this posting about things that he wanted to do, things he would do. And so it's kind of this morbid curiosity about has somebody posted today that they're going to do
Right.
something, it's
I
terrifying, but
I don't like government like hopping into things that are like, conversations. But in this case, I really hope the government has web crawlers that automatically pull
yeah,
really important things that are posted so that they can then check on it, because it's
yeah,
these overtly public things and mentions that
yeah.
a lot of things with like active shooters and stuff, a lot of things are private, and then all of a sudden it's public and then it happens. And so if something immediately goes public, you really need to check in on that. That's something that I pulled from the active shooter show.
Did you see the video on YouTube of this guy named Jacob Yerkes? He went viral for going to a police station to complain about this girl that he was basically stalking, and he was making threats against this girl and he was following her. He had previously posted misogynist incel content to his social media accounts, his YouTube, and I'm going to put that audio here. The fact that these cops did not do anything is wild to me. He even has videos of himself walking into the police station, seeing how far and how many places he can go in because he said that it's public property and he pays taxes on the
Oh, he's one of
building.
them.
Oh boy, yeah.
I'm a sovereign citizen. He's like 60 years and like a handle of whiskey off of being a sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Come on here, let's talk. I know what's going on.
Okay, so I was going to go to Cracker Barrel. There's a girl there.
What's with the camera?
I just want to record the incident so I have it on file and track everything. But anyways, I went to Cracker Barrel and I was going to play a song for a woman that I kind of like. Mm-hmm. And I got there and she saw me and she immediately pulled away. And I wasn't forcing her to listen or anything, Mm-hmm. I just wanted to play the song for her, give her her own choice if she wanted to be with me.
Does she know you?
Yeah, I worked with her there for like 5-6 months.
Did y'all have a relationship?
No, we were talking a little bit, but it never really got serious.
Okay.
But anyways, I pulled up there, and I was in the other parking lot, and I saw her get in her car, and I was like, oh shoot, it's my moment. So I pulled up there next to her, and she pulled away from me, and so I chased her a little bit, just because, I don't know, women are crazy. Like, I felt like she, wanted me to chase her.
Do you not think chasing somebody's crazy?
Well, it's just like, I only went like a couple blocks down the street.
I'm just saying, don't you think chasing somebody's crazy when they obviously don't want to?
Well, I had my song playing, and I wanted to, her to hear it, maybe.
Well, apparently she didn't want to hear it, right? So what else happened? Let's get on with the story.
Well, anyways, her father called me up, and he made some threats to me and to my life.
Okay.
And so I just want to have his name on file.
What did he say to you?
I think he said he's going to stab me, but he's, cussing at me.
He said that, or he did say that?
He says, I'm going to do something to you. I swear I do something to you.
For chasing his daughter?
Yeah, but it wasn't chasing. It was, going down a couple streets. That's, fun to women. Women like that. A little bit of excitement.
No, they don't.
Well,
Women don't like to be chased.
What about,
If I was a father,
porn?
I'd probably tell you the same thing.
What about, BDSM porn, where women like to have rape fantasies?
Well, apparently this girl doesn't.
Well, who knows? Most women do like having rape fantasies.
Okay. Do you think she does?
I don't know. But,
Apparently she don't.
well,
So what do you want us to do?
well, I just want you to get his name on file, just in case he does do anything
do
to me.
you know his name?
I know his daughter's name.
What do you know his name?
I know her name. I don't know his name. He called me from a restricted phone number.
Okay.
You have an idea?
Here's my suggestion. leave her alone.
Well, this was one song I made, and this was the final chance I was going to have.
Here's my chance. Here's my advice. It's over. Leave her alone.
Okay.
Fathers will hurt you over their daughters.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is she needs to have her own free will, man. You don't understand. I'm a man myself, bro, and I have needs myself.
She's choosing her free will by telling her daddy what happened to you, and I'm telling you, stay away from her because he will hurt you probably.
She's being controlled by him.
That's fine. That's fine. That's her choice, right? Free choice, free will.
I think she should go do porn.
Okay, you need to leave.
It's legal.
You need to leave.
Well,
we're not doing anything. You need to leave.
I'm having a discussion on.
I'm having a discussion telling you to leave.
Are you threatening me with arrest?
I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you to leave.
This is a public property.
We're done. Well, you can stay if you want.
If you do that on public property, I'll leave under.
You're free to do whatever you want to right here, but we're not doing anything else. I'm just giving you advice. The girl doesn't want to talk to you. Leave her alone.
You're not going to get.
What's her name? I will go speak with her, and then we will go HOLMS.
Yes, like Sherlock Holmes.
And what's your name?
Jacob. Yerkes. Yerkes.
YERKES.
Jacob, YERKES.
Here's the thing. My advice to you is leave her alone because the father's not happy and things can happen. Unfortunately.
I think she's been controlled all her life, though.
Well, she may be. That's her choice. Free will, right? But you said free will?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. I mean,
does she not have free will to be controlled by her father if she wishes?
Yeah, but there's something twisted about that.
There's something twisted about the way you think it.
I was going to let her make her own choice after the song.
Well, she's made...
Oh, shit. You know what? Lindsay's dad. I hope you see this fucking video. You know what happens when women don't ever, come to terms with themselves? Bad shit happens. I don't know. Something, the cops want to deny me trying to get her to be straight. Something is wrong about that. I don't see why these traditional ass motherfuckers think they can speak shit whenever it's this woke, belligerent LGBT shit that has her right now. And her father is controlling the bullshit. I just don't see it. I'm older than her fucking father. That's how I feel right now. I've lived this life. I've been the greatest. I've been down and I've been about. I don't know where this is going, but fucking snakes, man. She was gonna lure me into a trap whenever I was gonna go, play a song for her. It's just how it is. But shout out to all my bros. I know that my dudes, I'm really getting depressed recently, you guys. I feel like there's not faith in humanity.
Since 1989, there have been 28 incels that have been recorded and that we know of, according to ADL.org. I haven't looked at who these 28 are. I know of 3 or 4 main ones, but I'm telling you, these incel forums say a lot, and I think this is a bigger problem than most of us probably have ever thought about.
Yeah.
And that's why I really wanted to do this, because I didn't realize how many men are out here, and it took me a long time to find these forums. I had to go go DuckGo.
Yeah. So the results would actually come up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't find them. So I had to go a step further to find these forums. So, a lot of people have probably not seen this stuff and don't know how big of a problem it really is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who might, well, not a lot of your listeners, but some people who might be hearing this might say 28 incels since 1989, that's nothing. But here's the thing is two things. One, the internet's exploded, And so that has
Mm-hmm.
led to an increase, I'm sure, because these folks live in a bubble, and their bubble just kind of just keeps building them up, right? It keeps reinforcing what they believe. But then also it depends on, and I'm sure their definition of incel is great and really well researched, but it's their definition that defines those 28, right? That's how they pick them. And so maybe it's kind of specific in terms of what they've done, but there's probably the forums, like you said, alone, it's an exponential amount of men. It's not just the 28. It just happens to be the 28 that have really done, something that ADL's pulled. So
Yeah, thousands of users on 2 forums that I've found that are the 2 main ones, I think. And there's, I mean, if not, maybe a million. It's probably close to a million. And yeah, it's scary. But at the same time, not all incels are violent. There are different types of incels. Some just vent and complain, and they may, at the most, like spew misogynistic stuff, but they're not out here like saying that they're going to rape women or that they want to kill all of them. They're just kind of venting. They think all women who are sexually active and embrace sexual freedom are just
what
used up whores is
yeah
what you yeah
what you're gonna
that's what they
hear
say.
from mostly Paige, because she has the research, but me too, some of this stuff's gonna be really hard to hear for everybody. So just be prepped for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say. Yeah, so quote unquote used up whores, who they also call holes, HOLES, basically saying, you're not good for anything but your whole is, and
Yeah.
it's terrible. They believe that women using their sexual freedom gives them too much quote unquote power to choose who they want to be with, and that if women didn't have pussies, they would have zero value. One comment I read said, "A woman's only value is their pussy. You take that away and they have zero value."
And yet they've joined a forum because they feel slighted that they
Yeah.
can't sleep with somebody, or somebody won't sleep with them.
Yeah.
These guys are it doesn't, I mean, anything that I say is going to be obvious. Whatever
Yeah, yeah.
slander I'm going to throw their way.
Yeah. And, some of them, as we'll get into, are definitely suicidal.
Mhm.
And that's sad. It, that's where I have trouble, because it's like I want to hate these people so much, but they are dealing with obviously something mental, right?
Yeah,
And they're dealing with suicidal thoughts over this. And it does kind of make that sad.
it
I don't like for anybody to feel that way.
it is sad. That part is definitely sad. I think where I draw the line is that they're seeking some kind of solace for the difficulties they are going through within this echo chamber that is just strengthening, or just strengthening the issues that have brought them to the point in which they are. And so instead of going to do something that is constructive, like talk to an expert, or get a hobby, or like,
Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to
no,
laugh.
I mean, sometimes
It's true.
exercise, or whatever that might be. They're just sitting in this echo chamber saying something, and they get that dopamine back when somebody's like, yeah, that's right, yeah. And
Yeah.
now, admittedly, we've all done that. We've all done something to that degree, where we post something and we hope people hit the like button. But we're not posting things that literally strip the humanity away from somebody and title them holes, right? So where I draw the line here is that instead of going to seek out actual constructive help, they are simply wallowing within that echo chamber. And yes, some of them might have those that a sickness, or some kind of psychological something going on, where maybe they're not thinking to go seek other things out. Maybe some of them have like a big masculinity thing where they can't go seek help. Men don't seek help. For those people, I truly feel terrible that they're not thinking in that fashion, and a lot of people that might know them don't know they're doing this, so they can't say, hey, maybe you should go
Yes.
do this, right? But for the people who know the steps and who still sit there, that to me, like, I have sympathy for everybody, right? I'm overly sympathetic. Anybody could tell you that.
Yeah,
But
us both,
I
like
have
both of
I have a
us,
real
like
hard
totally.
time though with these guys who do that specifically, in
Yeah.
that context.
And it's going to be even harder to have sympathy the more that we go on, but this is not trying to bag on anyone's mental health or anything like that. I'm simply talking about these certain incels that say things like women not giving them sex is quote unquote reverse rape, and will argue it is as harmful as actual rape.
The reality with like an episode like this, and I think Mike and I just had one kind of about scams and stuff, right? And we didn't do that to like say those folks are smart. We didn't do that to feel bad that they're in that situation. What we did was we were bringing awareness to people so that they know what to look for. And this is kind of one of those things where unless we actually talk about it in like a meta sense where we're not just talking about like the case, but we're talking about what the case was about. That's important. And this is one of those episodes that I hope a lot of people do listen to and do get a lot of information out of it, because not only would you have to pay attention to people who you might not think are that, and obviously we don't want to make people paranoid, but maybe there are people in your life that might be showing some of these signs, and maybe you can tell those people, or you can find a way to say, hey, there's these other options out there. You don't have to just reside at a computer in a beanbag chair eating Cheetos.
Right.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
because these people can be your waiters or, you're a DoorDash person or, what, they're everywhere. A lot of them don't leave home, but a good amount of them do have jobs and, they are out wandering around us. So that is a little scary. But of course, like you said, I don't want people to be paranoid. I just hope that people are more aware of what's actually going on.
Right, exactly.
And this subject, like, this is the first time I've felt nervous in a while because talking about this is it can be a dangerous thing. And I'm not going to lie and say I'm not nervous. You can probably hear it in my voice. And it's just, it's difficult. It's difficult to talk about.
Yes.
And I know, like, because when we do, our brewery report, I don't normally sound like this and get like clammy or, clammed up, but I'm here like, oh, this is difficult. So I was really curious as to whether or not inceldom starts at a certain time or like how does it develop. But unfortunately, there have not been enough studies on involuntary celibate people to understand everything that we may want to know. So I'm not quite sure when it starts. I know with Elliot Rodger in his writings, he claimed that he really started seeing things differently when he was about 10. It's sad because you're only a little bitty kid and you're thinking that these guys are getting attention that I'm not getting. Why do girls not treat me like this? And they don't. I can't believe it starts so young, but for some people it does, and it's sad.
Yeah. I have a real hard time wrapping my head around that, because I think at the age of 10, I was worried about when my next pack of Pokemon cards was coming.
JT, that
And it
was
sounds
one thing he was obsessed with, was like
great.
Pokemon cards in World of
I'm married with
Warcraft.
kids. I'm fine. But like that's the reality though. Like that's what I was focused on.
Right.
I was not focused on the fact that girls were not paying attention to me. In fact, they probably weren't, because I was waiting for the next pack of Pokemon cards. Right?
Well, I think he said like 10 years old was when he realized that there was this quote unquote hierarchy, and like some men were held to a certain standard and had respect, and he noticed that other men didn't. And then when he goes to like middle school is when he's like 12 or 13. The girls start mingling with the boys, and he's like, the world was never like that before. Boys played with boys, girls played with girls. And then when I get, a little older, they start playing together and I find it weird. He would talk about how like girls would greet guys by hugging them, and sometimes they would with him in like 6th grade, but by 7th and 8th grade things changed and the girls weren't paying attention to him, and so he just kind of started getting really angry about it. Not just depressed, but like pissed off.
What's really interesting is a lot of this is more than just an individual, a generation, a class, whatever. A lot of this is biology. A lot of this is selection. A lot of this is a lot more than, it's not all about you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, there is always going to be a hierarchy, and there's always going to be some kind of a pecking order. And that's just kind of like how it goes. Now, the way that it's communicated, the way that it's acted upon in different schools and stuff can be extremely debilitating, but it's always going to be there. Wasn't he like the son of a very famous...
Yeah, so he was in this kind of famous family.
Yeah.
His dad was a director and he did work on the Hunger Games, and they were constantly,
That's right.
I think his stepmom was an actress, and so he was going to premieres and walking red carpets and started wearing the fanciest clothes because he was like, okay, I see these guys wearing the name brand stuff, so let me change up the way I dress and let me bleach my hair this color because most girls like blonde guys, so I want to be blonde. But yeah, I mean, he did, and it's so funny because you see the difference in how he feels about his mother and his father. He loves his mother because she gives him everything he wants. The dad, who he is like, my dad is this respected person, and he didn't like his new wife because he was like, she's not my real mother and she's disciplining me and I don't like it. So it gives off brat. You are a spoiled fucking brat. That's what frustrates me, to think you should have everything you want.
Yeah, and I wonder, we'll never know this, but I wonder if he was actually just true to himself, whatever that was at the time, because it changes, instead of trying to be like these other dudes, if it would have been different. And then I also wonder if his family was not as prominent, something about the prominence makes me feel like he thought that I should be up at the top of that hierarchy that I hate so much.
Yep.
And why am I not? And why don't people respect me because of this? Well, the reality is that you're not your parents.
Mm-hmm.
You are you, but it seems like you're trying to be somebody else instead of just you. And so I just wonder, and I realize that these folks come from all socioeconomic
for sure.
statuses. So really what I'm talking about is just his case.
Right.
But it seems like at the crux of it all, there is this expectation, this high expectation of interaction with different types of people, mostly women, that he's not getting. And he, quote, tried everything to meet this expectation. And it did not happen because he was being the complete opposite of who he actually was.
Right.
Whatever that might have been.
I know there are some incels that say that they hate their mothers, they hate their sisters, they hate all these women in their family. But for Elliot, I almost wonder if he thought that women should be, or young women should be more like his mother, giving him everything he wanted because he was so used to his mom, like being at his beck and call, giving him everything that he wanted. At the same time, he was super jealous of his sister. She would be having sex with her boyfriend in the next room, and he would be in his room listening to it and just fuming about it.
I mean, first off, put on some headphones.
Yeah.
Her life does not revolve around you, although you think that everybody's does.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, what you're saying about his expectations of women to be like his mom, right? that also flies into that whole high expectations thing, right? That all gels with what I was saying earlier. But he does just come across as being just a spoiled
Yeah, in
asshat.
his case, for sure. In his case, I just feel like you are, and if you watch any of his videos or hear the audio in the last episode, it just makes me so mad the way you can hear the entitlement in his voice. And I despise that. And I hate that when he was a child, he felt, hopeless
Yeah.
and all these things. But when you get to be an adult and you are doing what you're doing and you know what you're doing and it just makes me furious.
It's fascinating because it's being extremely aware of the wrong things, but being extremely aware by being the complete opposite in terms of self-awareness.
That's so true.
Yeah, so it's quite the conundrum.
Yeah.
It's a paradox of sorts, I think. Keep going. This is a good conversation. It's a hard one, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's just so important. And you mentioned therapy earlier, and one thing that I did notice a lot is that they kind of make fun of therapy. And I've seen them say that, well, if I go to therapy and express how I really feel, the therapist is going to go to the authorities and say, they're concerned. And so they kind of say, I'd rather die than go through all of that. So I'm guessing some of these guys that have the homicidal thoughts, they're scared to talk to anyone about that because they think they'll be taken away. 5150 or something.
Yeah, it's I mean, unless you make a direct threat against somebody that's credible, I don't think they can say anything. But then also, this is the whole concept of them playing that victim-ish situation where, well, if I do that, then I'm the victim.
Yeah.
They're always coming after me, but and then I think they get to a point, some of them, not everybody, where they're like, okay, well, I'm no longer going to be the victim, so I'm going to make other people the victim. But they're just so used to playing that victim card, and playing the victim card for therapy is a really easy way out to not do therapy. And I do want to say, in talking about therapy, me too. Like I go there too, but like I'm not saying that. Let me put it this way: I am making these comments within the context of incels, not in the context of the general population. So don't come at me.
Don't come at him, bro.
No, do not come at me, brocel. Don't do it.
As we know, most do have severe depression, anxiety, stress, emotional distress. As most of us, can say, okay, yeah, we do too. Yeah, and it is a sad issue. At the same time, they don't think women can be depressed. They don't think women have mental health issues. There have been comments about women don't really know what depression is. They've never lived the life we live, so they could never know what it is to be depressed. And that talk really pisses me off because as someone who does suffer from long-term chronic depression, it's maddening to see these people say women cannot be depressed. They don't know what it is because they can get sex, so they don't truly know what depression is. Like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and I'm looking, of course, because internet. I'm looking at the National Institute of Mental Health right now, and it says that 21 million adults in the U.S. have at least one major depressive episode. The number represented 8.4% of all U.S. adults. The prevalence of major depressive episodes was higher in adult females, 10.5%, compared to males, 6.2%. So can you just do like a 2-minute Google search and like truly.
But I bet they would say their argument would be something like most men don't report their depression, more women are open to talking about it, where most men don't. I feel like that would be the argument.
Maybe that, or the National Institute of Mental Health is run by women, so of course they made it a higher percentage. Like, truly, like,
it would be something like that.
Those guys seem like they're more like straw argument city instead of like an actual argument. So, but I mean, like, This is one of those topics where I don't understand it, and I'm okay that I don't.
Yeah.
Truly.
I think for me it's so hard because when I start going in on something, I want to understand it, but I think there are some things that we just will never be able to understand.
No.
As much as we try, as much as we read, there are just some things we're not gonna get.
I think we can understand this we can come to understand this as much as this is what kind of led them to this possibly. We can also understand it in terms of this is the process we need to take to make sure violence doesn't happen due to this feeling. What we can't
Mhm.
understand is why at that moment they feel like exactly like this, because there's no specific reasons. They say that there are those reasons and they say that they're legit, but they're
Right.
not. And so it's really hard to make a legitimate understanding out of illegitimate foundations for their feelings, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep. I know an active shooter, maybe you cover this kind of stuff, but they say it's more information is necessary to examine the interactions between incel rhetoric and suicidal ideation and depression as a link between like suicide and mass violence. They say that cannot be ignored, that suicide and mass violence kind of mixed with incel rhetoric kind of go hand in hand.
I think it's interesting because the reality is that yes, we do need to analyze this. But what that is doing is that is saying we need to analyze it at the point of somebody being an incel and talking about it. What I think we need to analyze is kind of how those people got there, because that's the foundation, that's the crux of it all, right? Now it is important to analyze rhetoric, especially in terms of, does it lead to the suicidality or does it lead to the mass violence? And we do have to remember that those two are not mutually exclusive. They're not separated. They can be combined. It can be mass violence straight into suicide. In fact, it typically ends up being that way with active shootings and things like that. As much as I think that this is important, being a calm guy and talking about rhetoric, we do need to take this rhetoric, identify the person, and look at the past and see how this possibly even got to this point, more so than I just didn't get any in high school. It's hard, you need the experts to really kind of look previous to when the rhetoric starts. But
Yeah.
identifying the rhetoric and connecting it and figuring out which way it's going to go is also extremely important too. So there's arguments for all of it.
Just going back to the mental health thing, there are so many people, women too, who deal with depression. They're single, they don't have kids, they're not out here getting sex, whether they want it or are not being hit on or whatever the case may be, but they still live for other things besides sex and relationships. There are other things to live for besides uh attention and affection from someone else, and they cannot, I don't know if they just cannot see past that. I
What's
don't understand.
I think what's really important, and you hit this right in the beginning with the origin of the word, is that the woman that created this word, or combined it with other things, whatever that might have been, was initially, the point was to seek out relationships with people who did
Yeah.
feel the same way. And now, admittedly, these folks are using this to find a crew or group or, whatever. Ultimately, they are using the concept of incel to attack and spew. And the only reason they have a group is because all these people want to do that, and they just so happen to find each other. It is not used with the primary purpose of getting together with other people and forming genuine relationships.
Oh yeah.
And so,
They even act like they hate each other.
right.
Like in these forums, they act like they hate each other, and
Well,
it's like
they hate,
y'all aren't even trying to be
like
friends.
Elliot, they hate that hierarchy, but they've created
Yeah.
a hierarchy within themselves in that group.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there is no, again, it's human behavior to do that. So it's fascinating that they're literally their own worst enemy.
Mm. They are. They are. So I want to go through some incel terms because
Oh, let's.
in the posts that we're gonna be reading to each other back and forth, I don't know which ones you're gonna choose. I don't know which ones I'll choose. I'm just gonna kind of do it randomly. But these are some terms that are going to come up within those posts. So I'm going to go through them, and we can talk about these because they're very interesting terms. And the first one is black pill. And when somebody says you've taken the black pill or you've been black pilled, they're talking about that there are no personal solutions to systemic problems and that the world was, is, and always will be stacked against men who are quote unquote genetically inferior, and that women are inherently wired to prefer men with particular kinds of facial features, bone structure, and body type. The problem with the black pill is that it means that those who subscribe to it are either doomed to a life of misery or have to take violent steps to prevent that, is what they say. And so some argue that incels are starting to commit acts of terror because of the black pill ideation. And it's also a lot of the reason why a lot of their discussions are obsessively focused on suicide and homicide. So that's the black pill.
I'm going to comment on the black pill just by the certain topics that are involved in this. One,
Yeah.
there's plenty of men who are, quote, genetically inferior who are doing just fine. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, the marshmallow.
Oh, but
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know the argument there. I've seen it.
And
any rich man
fine
can get.
But I also know normals. So shush.
Stop it.
But also, yes, we are inherently wired to prefer different types of people. We are. They're right, and it's nature. So shut up. Like, that's literally how we got to where we are in terms of, like, that's how we got to where we are in terms of evolution. That's why we're where we're at. You can take it as a personal attack, sure, that's fine, or you can go out and work on yourself.
That's so true.
The other thing is that you are not doomed to a life of misery. You are if you stay on these forums.
Yes, 100%. If you stay on those forums, you are gonna fall deeper into your depression. That's not gonna help you.
It's the ultimate doom scroll. I mean, it really is. All right. That's my comment on black pill.
Okay, so in MRAs, which are men's rights activists, and incel circles, there is a thing called the red pill. I know.
Men's rights? Do they burn their boxer briefs? Is that what are these guys doing?
Yeah. So I didn't know that I didn't know that group existed until this, but they do. And they have this thing called the red pill or being red pilled, and it's extremely specific and serves as an introduction to a particularly dystopian and misogynistic worldview. The incel red pill can be explained by the 80-20 rule, which is talked about a lot on these forums. They say that 80% of women desire just 20% of men. And this means that the vast majority of men will never be desirable and consequentially will never find sexual fulfillment and happiness. Among incels, the red pill represents the realization that feminism has caused a massive shift in power, and that feminism, which is understood by incels as women having the right to sleep with anyone they want and they don't like it, and that just gives women far too much power and has led to what often gets brought up, and I haven't looked into this, but I do have the definition of it, but hypergamy. Well, they say that is incel speak for women pairing up with men who are more attractive. In most cases, the red pill is only a stepping stone The far right, and this is in the definition of this. I'm just saying the definition. The far right and the manosphere consider the red pill a call to action. For white supremacists, the red pill encourages political activism and fighting what they call an anti-white system. For incels, it means trying to be more attractive in an effort to join that 20% of men who get women. And in this context, the red pill is almost optimistic. The world is unfair and the odds are stacked against you, but you can fight back. And they often talk about ascending, which is like, okay, if you finally get laid, that's ascending from what you are. And so I think the red pill would kind of go with ascension in their mind, because if they do become part of that so-called 20%, then it gets them out of the inceldom. I find all of these different pill names and colors, I just find the definitions really interesting.
Lawrence Fishburne only presented 2 types of pills.
Yes.
But like also, I and you probably know a little bit about this, but because I don't, I'm just coming up with this like in my brain. But it seems like even if they were to have sex with somebody, or somebody was to have sex with them, they wouldn't feel like they fought back or they're in the 20%. They'd say, oh, they just did that because they could and they felt sorry. And so now I'm even more angry.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, there's like no winning
No.
with this.
No, there's not, because some have gone to the point of saying, rape isn't bad, and if I could, how could I get away with it? And some of them do pay sex workers, but then if they talk about it, they get called out for not being a true incel, which I don't understand that. If you
Hierarchy.
Yeah. And then you have the ones who are like, I'm so far down into this that I hate women with a passion and would never touch one. Hate them. Oh my God. I read a comment last night in one of these forums. I'm telling you, fast forward 30 seconds, hit the skip button if you're squeamish. But somebody said that he wished he could slice a clitoris with a piece of paper because he hates women that much. And let me tell you, I can't think about it. I'm just gonna have to roll on. But yeah, some men are to that point where they just hate women and don't care about the sex. So I don't know.
But like the reality is, what is going to make you happy? Apparently nothing.
Yeah.
Except for just spewing shit, you know?
Yeah. At this point, most of them are. And it seems like that is just what they're addicted to, is being awful. But they call themselves the nicest guys on the planet that got just the bad end of the stick, you know?
Listen, you know those guys who are just like, I'm just a nice guy.
Yeah.
They never are just nice guys.
No.
Okay, so we've all had that interaction. So when you call yourself a nice guy, you either back it up by actions that prove it, or I'm going to assume it's the opposite.
Right.
And you're just saying that to seem okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can deep fry a piece of poop, but in the end, it's still a piece of poop.
Yeah.
Even if it was deep fried real nicely. So true. I mean, yeah, that's where we're at. Like, yes, you can say nice, but you know, if I break that deep fried pickle open and I find a piece of poop, I ain't gonna partake. So
Yep. And so that brings us, we have like 4 or 5 more pills to go through. I hope, you know, stick with me. So there's the blue pill, which is the counterpart to the red pill. It means that if you're blue pilled, you're optimistic and blissfully ignorant about how the world works. And to those who have been red pilled, everyone else is blue pilled. So anybody who
anybody who actually lives in the world as it is a reality, you've been blue pilled. Congratulations. You should be happy about that.
Yeah, so if you listen to the red pill definition, then the blue pill is just saying you're what they call a normie. You're just normal.
What's What's really funny is that you said red and blue, and I was like, well, what if you're a purple pill? And then I realized that's the next one. I did not create this glossary of words.
No, not at all. And so that does bring us to the purple pill. The purple pill is the incel version of centrism. And this rejects both the red pill and the blue pill philosophies as misguided at best and idiotic or repulsive at worst. Purple pillars attempt to explain male and female behaviors in a more moderate and, relatively speaking, sensible way.
So those of us who like fully have embraced the full Disney, your blue pill. What really sounds like normies is the purple pill.
Yeah. I mean, it really does. It's, some of this gets confusing to me. There's
a good reason for that. It's confusing as fuck. Like, truly.
Now, there are communities still on Reddit. They are very few, and hardly post anymore because they get banned so quickly. But yeah. I looked at a purple pill Reddit thread, and it was basically men and women having conversations, and I was like, okay, that's not bad, and the blue pill was kind of the same. So I'm not.
Hi, everybody.
I'm not so sure, but I am sure about what this next one is, and I'm very clear about this definition. The dog pill is the belief among certain incels that women would rather sleep with dogs than them. And they base this on extremely anecdotal evidence combined with speculations about canine anatomy relative to their own. And they'll also not only say dogs, but like horses and donkeys and like all this other stuff. Like women would rather lean towards
right.
bestiality than.
Honestly, like, and I know that sounds pretty crude, but the reality is you are a horrible human being.
Yeah.
And your views are harmful, not just to your little community, but to the world. And I think any self-respecting person, weigh it male, female, man, woman, whatever, I think I would rather go out on a date with a golden retriever than with you. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
I wish I was making a joke with this, but
no,
they are
but that's
dangerous
real.
human beings, right?
I would much rather spend time with my dogs and live a nice life than be with someone who writes any of that kind of crap or thinks that way. Not, I don't think any woman would sleep with a freaking dog. That's just ridiculous I'm sure there are maniacs all over this world. We know that, but most women are not going to be sleeping with animals.
There are very few kinks I judge. That is one of them.
Yes.
Children is another.
Yeah.
Those two, I will judge like I am Judy.
I will judge the shit out of you.
So...
it brings us to the reverse dog pill, and that's the incel response to the dog pill. And this is the idea that if women would rather sleep with dogs than with them, then they'll just start sleeping with dogs instead of women. And the debate around this pill was tagged serious on a popular incel message board, and I know where that tag is, so I know what message board this was. So it is taken seriously. They do have serious conversations and rage about this dog pill thing.
This to me is their, like, this is their your mom.
Yes.
Or this is like their no, and then they walk away. And then 10 hours later they think of what they actually wanted to say. That's what this is.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this
I wonder if anybody's actually done it.
Yeah. This is going to take us to a even darker place with the JB pill. And this is short for jailbait. And it's obviously a reference to...
It's not Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, I know. It's not Jack Black. It's a reference to pedophilia, and you know, I have seen a couple of posts, and I've not seen a lot of them, but there are a few that do talk about, and I may have some in screenshots that say, well, if little girls are, start their periods around 11 or 12, they're breedable by then. And I can't even put into words how sick it makes me to even talk about this, but they try to come up with these ideas about how it would be okay.
So that's funny because, like, the end of your sentence here says that incels should not be confused with pedophiles. But if the
Yeah,
JB
yeah,
pill is pulling this shit, I'm sorry, but if you take any human being and you use in the same sentence breed,
yeah,
fuck you.
yeah.
Um,
It is unbelievable. They talk about killing little girls, and because they'll grow up to be like every other woman. And yeah, I mean, it gets downright sick and very detailed in these forums. I would say if you do venture to seek them out, you will find things even more disturbing than what we are actually saying here.
the bottom line is, if you're thinking about it, make like the opposite of Nike and just don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
You
definitely
know,
suggest not looking at it,
th-
but
this
people
episode is
are
pretty
curious.
thorough.
Yeah.
Don't go any further than this, please. You don't need to.
Yeah. So there is a thing called the pink pill, which I'm sure incels don't believe in this, but is apparently the female version of the incel black pill. Many incels argue that women, by definition, cannot be incels since there will always be incels or other men willing to sleep with women. Femcells do make up a small subset of incel culture. Like we talked about, a woman is the one who made the name. And the pink pill is femcells' realization that no matter how fully they embody the perceived ideas of femininity, being thin, submissive, fully made up, that they will just never be attractive to men. And that's a real thing too. I mean, to say that women cannot feel this way is, bullshit, because I do know girls that have felt like this before. It's
Have you not seen the slew of advertising that gets like thrown at women
yeah,
and girls and
yeah,
little girls? Like,
telling us what perfect is and what's normal in society and what beauty standards are in
what
society, and just
what's really funny is that like beauty standards change over time, and honestly, like what they've ended up as
oh yeah.
is not it's not even a reality, right?
No,
It's
it's
a it's a
like plastic surgery, kind of like
it's
huge lips,
it's a
skinny
photoshopped
nose.
reality. It
Yeah,
is a photoshopped reality.
yeah,
And but but that doesn't matter, right? Because it's what's thrown at you. You is, it's
right.
the royal you, and whatever's thrown at you is going to make you feel, as my roommate would say, my previous roommates, my roommate now is my wife, my previous roommates make you feel some kind of way,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
matter what, and that is a legitimate feeling.
yep,
So for them to do that is just their way of just reinforcing the fact that they're the only ones. It's
yeah,
just me.
yeah.
Nobody else can feel this way. And now I'm starting to sound like Elliot. So, um,
Truly.
it's, yeah. Blech. But yeah, oh, please go to the next word.
So next we have the cock carousel. And
This
this
literally is from a brewery report. It might as well be if it wasn't so fucking serious.
yeah, yeah,
All
doesn't it
right.
sound like something that we would seriously crack a joke, like, oh, you're riding the cock carousel. But this is a serious thing. uh It's used to describe what incels think that women do before they eventually settle down. So, riding the cock carousel is a common phrase on incel forums. The idea is that women want to have sex with as many quote unquote high quality men as possible, moving from one to another quickly and without thought. So, this also kind of goes along with the same line of thinking that all women are out here, expressing our sexuality, and not all women are doing that. I mean, no hate on anyone that is. I
Do
love
your
that for
thing.
you. Love it for you.
You do you, boo-boo.
Hell yeah. But I mean, that's really putting every single woman in that same kind of box, and it's just not.
Well, it's easier for them to do that. We can't have
Yeah.
outliers. If we have outliers, there may be hope. Like, it's much easier to just be like, this entire group, we've seen this throughout history. This entire group is this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't matter how old, young you are, man, woman, grandma, child, it doesn't matter. You're all here. Thereby, it makes it much easier to dehumanize you.
Yep.
And so, that's exactly what they're doing here, because heaven forbid there be a quote outlier of this random shit they've come up with, to make them rethink their thoughts, or actually think in general.
Yeah. You would think getting off these forums and maybe thinking for yourself and forming your own thoughts, and definitely getting therapy. I mean, I'm always going to say that, always pushing for people to get that therapy and to feel mentally better than thinking this stuff is actually reality here. But it is their reality, I guess. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I hate to say, this isn't real, but for them, it is real. So
I'm wondering if they thought Lady Gaga one-upped them by calling it a disco stick. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't steal that and say, hey, that was ours to begin with.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next one is cope, and I see that a lot. The Black Pill says that there can be no personal solutions to structural problems, and so no amount of working out, dieting, showering, and self-improvement, come on, can help the majority of incels. And anything that they attempt to do is necessarily a cope, which is a temporary way of making themselves feel better about their situation. And this mindset becomes self perpetuating, as it leads to thinking that any path to self improvement is ultimately doomed, and therefore there is no need to try at all. Because why, for the love of God, work on self improvement or showering or anything else?
What was that old, like, 90s, early 1000s diary website, Angel Fire? Is that what that was called?
Oh gosh,
I can't remember.
we had Live Journal, we had
Yeah, it just reminds me of that whole, like, dear diary, today's mood apathetic.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing is like, you're right. If you don't, not necessarily work out, but if you don't shower, if you don't work on yourself,
you're gonna fall apart mentally. I mean,
you said it. It's self-perpetuating. That's what this is. And the inability, or the lack of want to get out is what is causing this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this in politics. Specifically, like, no offense to my county, but my county, they don't want to get out. And so if they don't get out, they're just self-perpetuating this. They don't want to get out because they don't like what's out there, but they don't learn what's out there or experience what's out there if they don't get out. So here we stand, and here we are. And that happens both nowadays, both physically, but also digitally.
Yeah.
We don't want to get out. Yeah. We would rather just hang out on Truth Social, right? I mean, we would rather just be Truth Social. I've given up everything else because it's just liberal bullshit and I don't want it. I don't want it. So I'm going to hang out on Truth Social, and I don't want to branch in any way, shape, or form. Heaven forbid I find an NPR article that actually makes sense. So I mean,
So
that's what
true.
this is, right? This is a very
Yes.
localized, specific version of that.
Yeah, it
And
is.
that's the most frustrating word I think we've come across. I mean, obviously the content is frustrating, but
Yeah.
that is fucking frustrating.
Yeah, to think that no matter what you do, it's ultimately doomed anyway, so I try. I mean, that's
I'm not gonna
just
do it.
cop out. It should be cop
Yeah,
out, not cope.
you're right. Nice. Nice. Well done. It is a cop out. It's what it is.
So, like I said earlier, we kind of talked about ascending. This is also known as de-incelification or de-incelization. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
yes, it's a verb to describe an incel having sex or forming a romantic connection, basically for the first time. It just refers to incels basically rising above their former community and overcoming the traits that held them back from sex and or love. Oh, so this is interesting. Ascension cannot be with an escort. That uh okay, there are things okay, escort cell. So you can be an escort cell, but ascension has to come from a real connection and a real relationship. Ascension doesn't just come come to be because you have had sex with a sex worker, which is
Are
wild.
we sure that L. Ron Hubbard did not come up with this? Because the concept of ascension really sounds like a Hubbard David Miscavige situation here.
Yeah.
I mean, David did indeed okay, I won't say that he did, but where's his wife?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, listen, here's the thing. I'm already getting on incels. I might as well just go for the full kit and caboodle to
Yeah,
have
why
people
not?
target me. Here we are. We're getting through this.
So we have the Chads, which is a term that refers to the archetypal anti-incel, white, straight men with Aryan features and other desirable physical traits. Chads are simultaneously despised. They are revered by incels who believe that all women inherently desire these type of men. So normies, normal
So
men, like if they don't fit their standard of quote unquote ugly or just something wrong with them physically or whatever, like you're a Chad, you can get whoever you want.
I don't know if you knew this, Paige, but you're really into tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed dudes.
Yeah, no.
See,
I'm not.
see what
That's
I
just
mean?
not my type. Yeah.
Right? So, like, I have heard this phrase "Chad," and maybe it was from the Elliot Rodgers case that I've covered in the past. But
Stacy is the female equivalent to that. So
all right, well, listen, but her mom had it going on.
yeah, every time I read that, I think about Stacy's mom. Every time.
I mean, do you remember when I came over and I mowed your lawn? Just saying.
Okay, and we also have femoids or foids.
Oh, Jesus.
This is basically dehumanizing a woman and reducing women to a subhuman group. Incels attribute their virgin status to these women and therefore refer to them as foids. It's like a female and android mix. That's what that
What
is.
these words were autocorrect fails
Yeah.
that they just decided that they couldn't say they messed up,
Yeah.
and so they made it a thing. That's what this is.
I swear. We talked about hypergamy a little bit, which is the 80-20 rule. Mogged comes up a lot, Mogged, generally used as a suffix. So, like, somebody can be height mogged, and this term kind of refers to someone with a more desirable quality. So, you can be like, hot mogged or success mogged. There's just anything
Decent human being mug.
yeah, basically. We have normies who are just people who fall in between the hot Chads and the hot Stacys. We've got just normies. And then we have rage fuel. This is where the forums get kind of crazy. when we start talking about the words that have fuel behind them. So, rage fuel contributes to an incel's increasingly angry state of mind. This information often surrounds elements of fundamental incel ideology, such as women and physically attractive men. So, if they see something that they don't like, they'll post, "This is my rage fuel," and they'll go on about something that they saw that day. When Elliot Rodger was sitting in his car watching these two people who just happened to walk up and sit and hold hands at a bench, that would have been his rage fuel because he was mad about it. Jealous.
They should have skipped the rage fuel and just gone straight to power thirst. Honestly, these guys. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next one's just depressing.
Yeah, they talk about this word a lot, which is rope fuel, which is also known as suicide fuel. And they will talk about, quote unquote, roping themselves. I'm going to rope myself this weekend. And we know that that's basically a term for suicide. Then we get into the kind of cells we have, and we have true cells, which are the true just the true incels here. There'll always be an incel regardless of anything, any changes. Then we have the vol cell, which is also known as the fake cell. This is a person who they think is celibate voluntarily, and so it doesn't fit their criteria of what inceldom is. They believe that these men who come on and talk about not being able to have sex or not having this or that, okay, well, you're basically a normie, which is you're basically a fake cell because you look a certain way. You have these physical attributes that women love or whatever. It's not like, could it be that it just maybe has a shitty personality? But that's a whole nother thing. They don't believe that women like personality at all.
This is important to distinguish because what that means is priests, you're out. You've voluntarily chosen this.
Yeah.
So you are indeed a Volcel, which is way too close to the band's name Volbeat, which I really like, and I don't like this. So, moving on.
Yeah. The other ones kind of like speak for themselves. You have gym cells. This is just their way of coping is by going to the gym. You have height cells. These are incels who think they have all these problems because of their height, that they're too short.
I mean, these are basic. What these are these are their these are what they're self-conscious about, and they've just put cell after it.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they've taken each thing that the majority of them are self-conscious about and made it a thing. Again, in a way to reinforce these thoughts, right? It makes them feel better. Like, of course I have these thoughts. I'm a height cell.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, now what I want us to do is randomly pick out some of these screenshots. I'll let you go first. You can just pick whatever you want. I'm still trying to get into mine.
Let it be known that I've not read any.
Yeah, JT has not read any of these. I just sent them to him earlier today, and he's been out having fun with, I don't want to depress anybody, but he's been having fun with his children and his wife. I'm sorry, not sorry.
This is why I wait until 9 p.m. or later to do any of this stuff when everybody is asleep. I don't like any of this. I guess I'll do this one, which is Foids are useless. Oh, everybody. Here we go. All right, this was posted, I don't know, it says yesterday.
Yeah, no, there's no telling. Days ago. It's been over the week.
Yeah, but recently.
Yeah.
Foids are useless, especially nowadays. Can't cook, can't clean, not obedient, not submissive, fucking bitches. The only reason they are still wanted by men is because sexual attraction. Their other utility have almost totally diminished. As much as Foids don't want non-chads, I think many men legit don't want to spend a lot of effort to get Foids these days. They'd rather cope with porn to satisfy the sexual needs and maybe occasionally fuck some hookers. It's most likely an ongoing trend. eventually Foyd's sexual value will diminish totally too with the advancement of AI. This took a left turn.
Yeah, they're very
In
into the AI
well, yeah.
sex female becoming a thing.
In 30 years, you could just tell AI to create a porn with you in it with a Foyd of your liking. Could be your one-itis.
Yeah, one-itis. I think that is when I could be wrong. I think that's when you have sex for one time. Or
Oh, it could be with that person who had sex with you that one time.
yeah.
Or anyone. All right. And I hate the fact that I understand that so quickly. And it'd be created and streamed in real time. This will make Foyds almost completely useless, and their extremely privileged status today will evaporate. Oh, I want to... You know what? His profile picture looks like a terrorist with a gun holding it to somebody. This is a great website.
Right? Oh gosh.
All right, your turn.
Okay. This one says, look, they're not the best at grammar here.
No.
Have you ever stalking a woman in real life? So it says, when I need to leave home, I take the opportunity to follow a random woman to her final destination. I imagine it as if I were following an NPC in an open world game, as if I were in the observer mode of Minecraft. They don't see me, nor can I influence anything in their lives. I'm just being an observer. I know it sounds weird, but there's nothing problematic about it. Not because I can't do anything, as it's like being in observer mode. Okay, he repeated himself. It's like I'm only interested in knowing a little bit more of that person's timeline.
So this person's little quote at the top of their profile is, "I wish I was special. You're so fucking special," which is just, come on. All right, this is based on another post, but it said, "And yes, I did read all that," in case, people want to call them out. Women suck. Nothing satisfies them until they have nothing more to leech from. Then they enter in panic mode when they cross the wall. They reap what they sow. That is being whores from day one. Any respectable gentleman, which none of them are, should stay away, even if it means dying a virgin. You don't need the baggage they bring to your life. Might as well remain in chastity. If you feel like it, get an escort, or stick with porn and hentai. Hentai.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it might be hentai.
Hentai. I think it's hentai. It's too dangerous to associate yourself with those creatures.
Yeah.
And then right under it said, "I had to put this out of my chest. Each day it passes, it becomes more insufferable."
I mean, I just can't believe these are real people sitting down with these thoughts, typing this out. You know what I mean? Like, and it could be somebody sitting right beside you and you never know it. That is what is the ultimate creep factor for me. I know most of them are probably in their basement or something, but like I said, a lot of them are out there. This is one, and it was posted in the Reddit thread Virgin. It says, the title is, "I Want Foyds Dead." They said, "I hate them so much. I don't even leave my house anymore because whenever I see them, I have to control every single muscle in my body and take deep breaths to calm myself. Otherwise, I would run towards them and rape and beat them in the middle of the street, broad daylight. I don't care if I get killed or beaten. Death is a freedom for me. And I would die doing the thing I deserve and crave the most, sex. That's the only thing that is keeping me on this earth, maybe. I don't even like porn anymore because watching it feels cucked. It doesn't get me horny, only angry because it shows a hot, beautiful Foyd that I will never have. I recently read ER, which is Elliot Rodger's entire manifesto, and the epilogue where he says that his ideal society would be one free of women through their total extermination. And that really stuck with me. That's what these things deserve for bringing us so much pain.
Sounds like he just doesn't want to get a shower.
Yeah.
It also sounds like oh man, I hate the fact that I'm thinking like this,
I
but
know,
I
I
am because
mean-
we've been talking about it for so long. But
Yeah.
the reality is he sounds like a fake cell.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like he's not okay with being celibate.
Yep.
It sounds like a lot of things. This one has some verbiage in it that
Yeah,
I might
they
alter
are
just a little bit.
very racist people. They are very
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about too.
yeah.
They're racist and homophobic.
Yes.
So today I decided to go to Burger King and something happened, something that made me want to go ER on the spot. I made an order and was waiting while cashier would pack up all my food. She was burgers in the bag. She was
I
all right.
know. I love this grammar.
She was burgers in the bag and suddenly stopped and froze, looking at something behind me. I was like, excuse me. And the bitch said, sorry, I froze for a minute. It's just the person behind you was so very tall. I looked behind and there was like a 6'8" tall
Yeah.
F word.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just wanted to grab the bitch by the neck and smash her ugly, racist slur face until eyes fall out and brain is smeared all over the table. I don't understand this because that person is fucking tall.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
how
a
many of us
natural
have been like,
reaction, is it not? Like, if you were to see, for example, Shaq. I mean, I know he's taller than 7 feet, but I mean, you see somebody who's really tall, and it's just like, oh, whoa, I'm not used to seeing somebody so tall. You shocked me. It was kind of shocking. Like, it's not like, oh, I want to have sex with you. Like, it's not that.
but that plays into their whole mentality
Yeah.
of you just want to have sex with everybody, except for them. I was volunteering at an event where I work, and we see a lot of various people. There was a person that walked by, and he happened to be 6'10" or 6'11".
Holy crap.
He was tall. Like he was kind of bending over just to walk through the hall.
Wow.
And of course, I stopped my conversation with somebody and was
Yeah.
like, whoa, because that is not the average. And it's
Right.
okay that it's not the average, but it's just not something we see. Like, typically all I think of is like the knee and back problems that a person that tall would have.
Right.
But like, I'm sorry, it had nothing to do with you.
Right.
It was him. He's tall. Also, she could see him over your head. So stop, like this, it just makes literally
I know. Ugh.
no sense.
All right. So this one says, man, I have to read these that are quite hard to read because I just don't know if people understand how fucked up this is and how dangerous this thing is, and we can joke about it and and pick and things like that, but it's something serious is going on here. Nowadays I think so differently. I want to make them uncomfortable. They reject me, I insist. I will creep them out. Women on Plebit, which is just Reddit, complain that, oh my god, it's so hard to be a woman. Every man could potentially kill you or rape you. Then how about we make those fears a little more justified? Not gonna kill anyone, but I am having frequent fantasies about the other thing. Maybe choosing a spot on a trail where a few people would see me, taking her with me 2 miles into the woods, away from any trail, and the fun begins. The blade could even be made of plastic. It would only be used to threaten her so she doesn't scream. And then, after 30 minutes, I'll let her go and make a run for it, zigzagging around the city, far away from home, disappearing into the city. And this is their thing. At the end of these paragraphs and ramblings and such, they'll say, in a video game, of course, or in Minecraft. They'll like that's gonna save their butts.
It's their version of just joking.
Yeah.
I usually take a bus to college, and there's always some fat F-word, homophobic, talking really loudly to some foids about boys they find attractive, and all the features are always like height, face, muscles. Amazing how they never talk about personality.
Yeah.
Another thing is when they talk about sex education in class, I see hold on. He was taking a bus to college, but he's talking about sex education. Okay, whatever. Sex education in class. I see the femoids paying close attention to the tips on how to have safe sex. They will definitely practice this with their boyfriends, chads, while I'm miserable having to listen to all world talk about sex. Someday in these classes, I'm going to stab my own throat with scissors in the middle of class just so they can see how much harm they're doing me. With the 4chan frog.
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean, I don't quite know. If you were a therapist and somebody said something like this to you, I mean, I know therapists probably know what the right thing to say is, but if somebody came up to me and said that, I just, I don't, I don't know what I would say. That's just so shocking.
Well, yeah, it's definitely shocking. I think I'm obviously not a therapist. I think I would redirect it back at them to say, well, why do you feel this way? Why do you think you feel this way? But then also, there is some credence to taking basically this argument or this process that they're going through and trying to break it down into pieces in a respectful way so they don't feel attacked, because that's not, you don't do that to people in a cult, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to do that to this is for all intents and purposes a cult.
Yeah, truly.
The reality here is in the first paragraph. It's like, yes, they are talking about height, face, muscles, because they are just talking about people they find attractive. It's not people that they know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if I find somebody attractive, then I'm going to get to know their personality. That's just how this works.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm explaining that it doesn't make sense, because it's very obvious that it doesn't make sense to everybody.
I mean,
but
there's so many holes that we can poke into their arguments, but they're always going to come back with an excuse, which is frustrating, because it's like they don't want to not be the victim. And
you make that argument, they're going to come back with the whole reverse dog pill.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
I really hate the fact that I remembered that, but that's right. Again, it's the no.
Yeah. So this one is also very disturbing. It says 14 to 15-year-old foids are the most fertile, but discussing any lustful thoughts towards that age group is taboo. Even on this site, we have to appease age cuck mods or outside restrictions just to stay online. Believing that jailbait voids are ideal is like being a pre industrial low class heretic in a puritanical religious society. Back in the day, sheeple advocated for burning agnostics at the stake because they might be involved in witchcraft or other degenerate shit. Today, men could be jailed or pushed to suicide for simply having upskirt or other softcore pictures of voids that are pre-18. It's even worse knowing that government gimps are more accepting of F words who fuck each other in the ass, or quote unquote trannies who inject the inverse sexual hormone to their biological gender. We are truly living in a dystopia.
This is my last one. This is the topic, right? Incels exist because women's faulty, fucked up, inferior genes never get filtered out of the gene pool. It doesn't matter how ugly, short, fat, disfigured they are, all women still get to reproduce and pass on their shitty genes to the next generation. Sometimes even with a Chad who gets drunk one night and ends up fucking some random whore at the back of a bar. Whereas men who are ugly, short, fat, disfigured, or otherwise deemed non-Chad do not even get to have a girlfriend in their entire lives, and their shitty genetic line ends with their inevitable lonely death. Hold on, the whole argument is that inferior genes don't get filtered, but you just said that non-Chads have shitty genetic lines. So, okay. Also, not every egg a woman produces is of superior quality. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't just go shopping in a Kroger for like a cage-free egg. Like eggs produced by chickens, a lot of them should just be thrown out. But unfortunately, voids just keep on fucking Chads whenever they have the chance, and inevitably one of these fucked up eggs gets fertilized. Men, on the other hand, have always... What? No. Men, on the other hand, always bring their top sperm. Millions of sperm are put to the test, and only the strongest, fastest sperm will get to the finish line and get to fertilize the egg. No, I know a lot of guys who the sperm that got to the egg was the one that tripped the rest of the assholes, and so they're an asshole. Men are bringing their best, and women just have to lie on their backs without a chance of losing. What the fuck? This is why incels exist. No.
I love the utter, not only confusion, but the like distress in your face. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I know it makes for good podcasting, but I'm sure I'm making my face deceives me every time. But I'm okay with that in this case because what
Yeah.
the literal fuck?
Yeah. So I'll read one more, and
Yeah.
this one is just a picture of that frog making the side eye kind of thing, and it says, "Ooh, what's that? A woman is getting raped by her boyfriend, and I should do something? Sorry, she isn't entitled to my help. She shouldn't have been hanging out with sex havers. More tendies, please, my good sir." Like, I'm sorry, like it's so
I get it.
stupid, but it's
You like the chicken nugs, but
right.
like I don't want to hear why you have more of them.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So, yeah.
I know you want to conclude this. I just had a couple thoughts when we were talking a little bit earlier. My question, I have kind of like two things. Like, did incels create the taboo for themselves, or did the taboo of sex create the incels?
Yeah.
So like they put sex on a pedestal, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm wondering, and you know, this is a conversation that a lot of people are having now. Like, if we normalize sex, nudity, whatever, right, to the point in which nudity wasn't even nudity, right? It was just it just there, right?
Right.
Like, would that reduce the number of incels? Like, obviously, it wouldn't right away, but
Yeah.
perhaps generation to generation, you would stop having people who are so goddamn toxic and just dripping with this vitriol.
Yeah. I have to think that some of it has to be like mentally ill people who
Yeah.
fell
Yeah.
upon these places and want to fit in somewhere. And so they kind of adopted a lot of these beliefs. I have to think that some of this is that, but there's also people who are
Well,
just
it's the
like
people.
this.
It's the people who are just like this that are creating a lot of struggles for the people who are looking for a place
Yeah.
and have those issues. And like, yeah, if I feel sick and I go on to like WebMD, I'm gonna find out that I'm gonna die.
I've got,
It doesn't matter if
yeah.
I stub my toe.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're gonna find what you're looking for one way or another. And if you just so happen to be looking really badly for some place to belong, people are gonna take advantage of that.
For sure.
And then eventually you'll find yourself indoctrinated and using the verbiage and then
Yeah.
starting to
Like
allow
you
the
said, a
verbiage to seep into your
cult.
thoughts.
A cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it would be fascinating to put the people who run these forums under a microscope.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. I mean,
Yeah, I do think that they need to be studied more. Like they said, there's not enough studies on incels, and a lot of them don't seem like they want to talk to get to the bottom of why they think the way they do. So I think studying them might be a little difficult because it's hard to get them even out of the house to go to therapy. So study them, I don't know.
You're gonna have a really hard time finding. You can't find a group of like current active incels. You'd have to find a group of people who were recently removed from that culture, who did seek help, who now have kind of pressed on, but who can still talk about it as it currently stands. Because those folks that are still embroiled in that, there's nothing useful you're going to get out of them.
That's true.
They're going to contradict everything you say. They're going to assume you're out to get them because that's their mentality at this point. That's why it's so hard. Because even if you get on there and you say, "Hey, I'm looking to do some kind of a project,"
oh yeah,
they're going to call you.
They're
going to call you like a research cell or whatever they're going to call you, and they're going to think you're trolling them.
Yeah,
because everybody's out to get them. So this research is obviously going to be out to get them. It's just a way to get them into the therapist chair, right? So it's very difficult. You have to find people. It's like cults. You can't study people who are currently in a cult.
True.
You have to study people who have recently left, or you have to not study, but like you have to interview. You have to
analyze and
talk to people who are recently out. It's like Scientology, right? There's no fucking way that I would be able to get anything about Scientology out of Tom Cruise or John Travolta.
For sure. Yeah.
But give me Leah, is it Remini?
Yes,
Remini.
love her.
And then boom, now we've exposed a lot of stuff that's still currently going on.
Right.
So these kind of groups are just so set. It's just really impossible to get anything out of them other than to study, like they said above or earlier, rhetoric.
Yeah.
All you can do really is study the rhetoric they're using, and hopefully you can get something out of it.
Yeah.
to link it to something else.
It's true. And I know this episode is the most rambly that I felt that I've been in a while. So but
I
this
didn't help.
no, it's not that, but it's just the nervousness behind doing this and how uncomfortable it makes me feel to say these things. So I laugh too out of nervousness. So if there is a part where like I laugh and people are like, oh, what'd she laugh for? I laugh when I get nervous or when something makes me uncomfortable. I sometimes laugh. So definitely
Well,
don't want anybody to take anything way too personal.
you and I, over the collective 8 years or whatever that we've done this between the two of us,
Yeah.
we've talked about some really fucked up shit.
Yeah.
I mean, truly. And I don't know whether it's because this is more current than what I typically cover, but there is nothing that has made me feel, and I'm a dude. I recognize that 100%. And I totally acknowledge and recognize how uncomfortable you are.
Yeah.
And that is more
Because
than valid.
and JT knows, like, he sees me all the time, like, we hang out all the time doing the brewery report, and it's just so super laid back, and we're all just laughing and having a good time, and this has made my shoulders tense. It has made my
Yep.
whole body, like, tense up, and JT can recognize that, so, I know it's bad when when he can be like, yeah, I see
Yeah.
it.
I mean, like, even I, right?
Yeah.
Even I, as a
Yeah, I could
as
see
somebody
moments in
who's,
you where you're like, "Oh my god, cringe, uncomfortable."
yeah, I mean, I'm a white married landowning pass as straight,
Yeah.
but pass as straight male,
Right.
and even I am uncomfortable talking about some of this stuff, not just because of the content, but because of who could be ultimately listening.
Right.
Um, Also, if you're listening to this and you're an incel,
If you're listening to this, definitely get therapy if you
yeah,
can and step away from those forums. I just feel like
please.
that's an even more toxic place. I don't know if any incel would ever take that advice, but um you know, everybody deserves better than those thoughts and being
Yeah.
around just toxic people like that.
And if you hear the discomfort in our voices throughout this, and you happen to be in that category, and you take pleasure in that,
Yeah, see, that's another thing. That's why I didn't want to
I
admit
mean,
it, but it, it would be weird not to address it because I don't sound like my normal self. So I had to kind of
well,
address that.
we'd be passed off as Chads and whatnot, so like they wouldn't really take that seriously, anyways. But if you do even have a smidgen of concern about how nervous or how uncomfortable you are with these thoughts, please let that drive a wedge between you and who you've been talking to online, even
Yeah.
passively. Let that sit with you for a while, because that is a thought that I want to fester within your mind,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can eventually say, hey, maybe this ain't the right thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, to the ones that would actually get a kick out of, especially me being kind of uncomfortable talking about these things. I really don't know. I mean, I guess, laugh if you want to, but women do live in fear every day. So looking at this kind of stuff, not knowing it was even really out there, because I never gave two thoughts about this before the Elliot Rodger episode. I never thought that it was such a big thing like it is, and to see it is shocking.
But I mean, like, why would you? Right? It's not that we don't think bad shit happens, because we know
Mm-hmm.
bad shit happens, but why would our thoughts just immediately go straight to, oh, this group exists? Which really should also tell you something. Like, why does this group exist?
Right.
It's not even in the forefront or rear of our minds,
Right.
because it is so, here we go. I'm gonna close this off. It is such an asinine thought that
Yeah.
that it just doesn't seem real. Like, it doesn't seem real life.
Yeah,
It is this fantasy world. So
for sure. Thank you, JT, for joining me for this. I know it's been difficult and it's been uncomfortable at times, but I really wanted to get a man's perspective on these things, because it makes me, and I'm sure a lot of women listening, feel better when they can hear, okay, there's a sensible man. Not all of them want to kill us, and not all of them are bad.
Well, I
It
mean,
just
it's
brings that sense of comfort and like, okay, it's not every man, but it's enough.
yeah, and it's very generous of you to call me a man. So that's very nice of you. Really, I
Stop.
see myself as more of a Chad, but um,
Oh my gosh.
it's difficult talking about serious things when you get two people who laugh at uncomfortable shit.
Yes,
Um,
totally.
yeah, I made jokes at my grandparents' eulogy,
Yeah.
so y'all, I'm consistent in this. It's just
Same,
kind of how it
same.
is. But yeah, no, I appreciate you asking me on. I'm not entirely comfortable saying that I'm speaking for the good guys out there because I just made that comment about people who say they're good guys.
But no,
And
I
I
can
certainly,
vouch for you though, because I've known you for a very, very long time. So I know you are a genuine good guy.
well, I appreciate you having me on, and if I did what you said for somebody,
Yeah.
then I'm happy about that. And if I was just a silly voice in the mist, then that's fine too
Oh,
for
stop.
anybody. So yeah.
No, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I would love everyone's thoughts and comments about this. If you would like to DM us or get in touch on Twitter or
Mhm.
Instagram or anything and just drop your thoughts about this conversation. And if you have anything to add to it, I'd love to read it. So, JT, where can they find you and Brew Crime?
You can find my digital presence because I sure as heck now am not going to give my physical presence. No, you can find. So Brew Crime is literally at Brew Crime on all social media. We're also on brewcrime.com, but you can find me on Elon's Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at JT Brews Crime. Yeah, JT Brews Crime is the best way to find me up until, Elon destroys it. So.
Yeah, seriously. Thank y'all so much. And I will see you guys on January 2nd. That's when I'll be back with a new episode. So until then, everybody stay safe and take care. And I wanted to bring a male on the show to discuss this with me. What, is that not good? I shouldn't say
I am
that.
in no way connected to anything regarding incel.
No. Okay. Yeah,
But
that
here I
wording
am.
doesn't sound right.
I
Oh
was just
no, that
playing along.
wording.
Keep it all in.
I'll put it in the bloopers or something.
I was looking for the last name here in your script, and I cannot find it.
Yeah, it's right above the insert audio.
The insert audio. Where's the? Oh, I see. Manassian. Yeah.
So, since 1989, oh, I swear, I've been reading so much that my throat is just not cooperating.
I almost quoted what I quoted on the conversation the other night. I'm so a dick. Now you can take it as a person.
You're getting ooh, throw that mic. It's even worse knowing that government gimps. Okay, is that a bad word? I probably shouldn't say that.
Gimp?
Yeah.
No, gimp is like if S&M, a gimp is like yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
A gimp's a sex slave or submissive.
Okay. I was like, okay, that sounds horrible. I don't know.
Also, I probably freaked everybody out that I just pulled that right off the top of my head. It's what